Hello everyone, my name is Veer and today I am going to explain you about Selenium WebDriver architecture. Okay, so before going into the Selenium WebDriver architecture, let's understand what Selenium WebDriver is. Okay, so Selenium WebDriver is a popular free and open source library that allows you to automate certain actions on web applications. Okay, so basically WebDriver has set up APIs that allows you to interact with popular browsers such as Chrome, Firefox, Edge, and Safari. Okay, so basically, it has set of methods or APIs that allows you to interact with the browser. Just to give an example, you wanted to open a URL, you wanted to click on an element, you wanted to select a value from a drop down, or you wanted to enter a text. So these are few examples of API that Selenium WebDriver provides you. Okay, now let's go into the architecture part and let's try to understand its different components. Okay, so first component of Selenium WebDriver architecture is Selenium client library. Second is W3C WebDriver protocol, also called as JSON wire protocol. Previously it was called as JSON wire protocol, or it is also called as W3C compliant WebDriver protocol. Then the browser drivers, this is nothing but browser specific implementations. We'll see this in detail, don't worry about it. Last is the browsers. Okay, this is nothing but your real browsers like Chrome, Firefox, Edge, and Safari. Okay, now let's deep dive into more details about each of these components. Okay, so first is nothing but Selenium language bindings. Okay, also called as Selenium core libraries or Selenium client libraries. So what basically this means is, okay, so basically Selenium, when it was built, right, they have decided to support different programming languages like Java, C Sharp, JavaScript, Python, and Ruby. So basically, what they did is when these client libraries are developed, they had they had written certain classes and methods that allows you to interact with web browser using any of these programming language. Okay, so basically these are client libraries that allows you to use certain actions or classes or methods to interact with the web browser. Okay, the next part is nothing but your W3C WebDriver protocol. Okay, so W3C WebDriver protocol, also called as JSON wire protocol, that is the crux of Selenium WebDriver architecture, and that makes it you know to, interact with any browser. So this is one of the core component or a major component of Selenium WebDriver architecture. So basically it uses JSON, also called as JavaScript object notification, in order to communicate over HTTP servers. Okay, so this is nothing but a transport mechanism that is used to communicate between your application and the Selenium client libraries. Okay, so this is just keep this in mind. Okay, so this JSON wire protocol is based on REST. Okay, so it uses REST APIs in order to transfer information between the HTTP servers or between your application and your browser specific implementations of WebDriver. Okay, so let's the next component is nothing but browser drivers. So what Selenium does is Selenium uses specific driver for each browser, okay, to establish a secure connection between the real browser and the Selenium server. Okay, so it has specific implementations for each and every browser. Okay, and Selenium supports all modern browsers for automation. Okay, so this Firefox driver, Chrome driver, Safari driver only interacts with their corresponding real browser. Like Firefox driver will interact with your Firefox, Chrome driver will interact with your Chrome driver, and Safari driver will interact with your Safari browser. Okay, now let's try to understand this in real time and how Selenium WebDriver works internally in this case. Okay, now let's uh, try to understand what exactly happens behind the scenes using each of these components. Okay, so let's say in real time you had written a script in programming language, say Java. So you had written a script to open a browser. Okay, Chrome browser, just to be specific, and open a URL on, let's say, www.google.com. Okay, so what basically does is this particular Selenium client library, whenever you run a command, let's say you had written a command WebDriver driver equal to new Chrome driver. Okay, so this command is get converted into a JSON request, sorry, JSON format, and a API call has been given. This is the responsibility of your WebDriver protocol. What this does is it creates one, you know, uh, server first thing. Okay, one Selenium server, and it creates one HTTP request on that particular server with some JSON data. Okay, and then it passes to your actual browser specific implementation. If in our case it will be a Chrome driver. Okay, then what this everything happens over a HTTP. Okay, so everything that I'm speaking about is happening over HTTP. Okay, so once that JSON request along with the on that particular server is received, okay, then what this Chrome driver does, it's it internally calls to create a session. So basically it creates a session. So that means whenever you write WebDriver driver equal to new Chrome driver, a new instance of Chrome is getting created. Okay, so it has created a Chrome instance. Now next time you, let's say you say driver.navigate and you pass the URL. Okay, so again this particular steps got executed, like WebDriver creates one JSON request, then it finds out that particular session, and on that particular session it opens a web browser. Okay, so this happens everything in a sequence. Okay, so once this request is completed, right, it sends back the response as well. Okay, so it sends back the response to your Chrome driver back to protocol and back to your actual code where you have written. So based on your success or failure, it returns back to your actual program where you had written the things. Okay, so that's how it internally works. You might be thinking it's quite complicated to understand all those things, so don't worry about it. We will see this in action with the help of some code or some APIs, how basically it internally works. Okay, so just give me a moment. I'll quickly flip to Intel to a Postman, and then we will start off again. So, okay, in order to understand how this internally works, so what I'm using is Selenium Standalone Server for that. Okay, and then I'll explain you how this particular APIs get called when you write certain script in any of the programming languages. Okay, so let's try to understand that. So first of all, what I'll do, for ready reference, what I have done is I have downloaded Selenium server on my machine. Okay, so I'll quickly spin up that. Okay, uh, just just give me a minute. So you might be aware that you can run the jar, any jar file using the command java hyphen jar, and then uh, the actual jar file name, and here I'm specifying to run it in standalone. So basically it will spin up a grid on your this particular system. So just to give an example, it is spinning up a grid on your local machine. Okay, so I'll quickly show you that. So if I open this particular URL, right, see it has spin up a Selenium grid on this particular machine. So it has, you can run 8 instances of Chrome, 8 instances of Firefox, and 8 instances of Edge, as it has detected these three browsers on my this particular machine. Okay, so this particular instances depends upon your the processor. So basically, if it has four processor, it will run four browsers in concurrent mode. Okay, now so this is the first thing when I wanted to explain the architectural aspect of Selenium WebDriver. Okay, so whenever you write first command, right, WebDriver driver equal to new Chrome driver. Okay, so before that, what happens, you might have seen in the logs, right, there is one command that a server has been started on this particular port. Okay, so that is nothing but this particular thing was happening. Okay, like it is spinning up one Selenium server on your local machine. Okay, now the next part. Okay, so for ready reference, what I have done, I had created certain things in Postman, or APIs in Postman. Okay, so if you could see, right, it is running on this particular port, on this particular IP. Okay, so I'll just copy this as one of the post URL. Okay. And so what I'm going to explain you is nothing but the command WebDriver driver equal to new Chrome driver. What happens behind the scenes when you perform this? Okay, so basically when you execute that particular thing, it creates one API request with these particular details. Okay, so you specify certain uh, attributes for a browser, like desired capabilities on all those stuff. Okay, so just to give an example, here I am opening a Chrome browser. Okay, so what I have done, I had this is my endpoint, this is a type of request is post, and what is the body that I'm passing over here is nothing but a JSON body where I'm specifying the capabilities and desired capabilities for the browser. Okay, so let's try to execute this and let's see what happens. Okay, so if I send this particular request, right, you could see a browser window has been opened. Okay, and I'll just move these windows side by side so that it will be visible for you properly. Okay, so this is my request that I passed, and based on this request, it has executed a command to open a browser. This is nothing but a creating a new session. Okay, and if you could see over here, right, it has given me a session ID and certain more details. What is the browser name, browser version, everything you can see over here. What is the platform, and all this information as a response back. Okay, now let's try to understand the next part of it. Okay, so this is the first thing. Whenever you execute that particular command of creating a new session, now let's say you wanted to navigate to a particular URL. Okay, then what happens? Okay, so let's try to understand that. So this navigate, when uh, say travel.navigate, internally again it calls another API with more details, like it first needs a session. Okay, session is nothing but we had received when we had created a session when a driver equal to new Chrome driver. Okay, and another thing is it requires a path parameter URL, and that URL will be passed as a body. So let's say you wanted to open a google.com. Okay, I'll save this and I'll run this particular command. Now, if you could see over here, it has opened up google.com. Okay, so this is how it internally tries to execute whenever you perform certain actions. Okay, next thing. Okay, now I'll go back to Selenium grid. Okay, so that if you could see, right, it has created one session. Okay, now what I'll do, I'll try to create another session. Okay, so you could see another browser window has been opened. Okay, and if I see the session ID for it is different. Okay. Now let's try to use another command like close window. Okay, let's say you wanted to close a window. So basically what we'll do, we had opened this particular window, right, which is blank. But let's try to uh, you know close this particular window. Okay, so for that what we need is session again. Okay, so the session that we had created recently, we had to use that particular session ID. So what I'll do, quickly open that session ID, and I will pass to the next command. Okay, so this is the new session ID that has been created. So I'll just copy that, and for ready reference I have again kept that particular API request ready. So this is again a delete request. You have to pass the session ID and a window. Okay, slash window. This is again a path parameter. And if I execute this particular thing, right, so it has closed that particular window. But if you go to the Selenium grid, right, it still shows two sessions. Okay, so this is nothing but when you say driver.close and driver.quit. Okay, so this is nothing but driver.close. Your session is still there, but you have not closed, you have not cleared the entire session. Okay, so now let's move on to the next part, is nothing but delete session. Okay, so again this is a delete request, and again here you have to pass the session ID. And if I save and execute this particular request, you could see that particular session is got cleared. Now you have only one session. Okay, now we will do the same thing to get it more deep, or understand the same thing once again. I'll you know uh, try to do the same things with the first session. Okay, so I want the first session ID. So what I'll do, I'll just go to the sessions over here, and if you could see, right, this is my session ID. So I'll copy this particular session and paste it over here, so that my window will be closed. So if you could see, that particular window is closed. But if you go to the Selenium grid, right, still you will see that particular session. Okay, now let's try to delete that session as well. It has executed, it has returned a status code to me, and if you see, right, you don't find any sessions running over here. So I think, hope these things helped you to understand the Selenium architecture. Okay, so this is how the things worked internally. Hope you enjoyed this video. Happy learning, and stay tuned for more such videos. Thank you. Thanks for watching.